Hello and welcome to Smartkarma's corporate webinar. I'm Sanam Nanwani from Smartkarma. This week we are hosting Vividthree. We are glad to have with us CEO Jonathan Zhang. We will start the webinar with Jonathan walking us through a company presentation, after which he will engage in a fireside chat with Smartkarma Insight Provider Angus Mackintosh. We are taking live Q&A. I would like to request our attendees to post your questions in the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. During the webinar, we will also share some links on how you can connect with Vividthree and read more research by Angus. So please do keep a lookout for messages in the chat box. I now hand it over to Jonathan to walk us through a short company presentation. Jonathan, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jonathan, CEO of Vividthree. I hope all of you can hear me clearly. Let me know if I drop off. So today I'm going to present Vividthree, right? What we have done, where we are going, and what does the future lies ahead for us. So if you look at, sorry, this is the previous slide. So this is going to be the content page. There are 25 pages, but some of them I'll just skip it through where it's not necessary. Where it's important to emphasize, I would definitely emphasize it. I will start with about us, and then running through some of what we've done in the past. I'll show you our show reel. It's a show reel that we update every year. And then we'll run through the different business units and showcase some of our clients. Next page, please. So who exactly is Vividthree, right? So we are Singapore's leading 3D animation and visual effects studio with a multi-award-winning track record. So we're headquartered in Singapore, and we are the first immersive digital content production house to be listed in Singapore as well. We have a territorial footprint across Singapore, Malaysia, and China. Some of the notable projects that we have done in the past, the Our Boys to Men movies, actually. Train to Busan Horror House at the Ding. We've also launched it in China. And also Disney Plus Hotstar launch in Malaysia, which you'll see further on. So we're also trying to extend our business adopting blockchain technologies across digital assets like NFTs, also blockchain gaming, and decentralized data infrastructure. So we are a subsidiary of MM2 Asia. MM2 is actually our largest single shareholder, and we have been Catalyst board listed since 25th of September 2018. If you forget anything in the deck today, right, you just need to remember 3 alphabets, which is our SGX stock code, OMK. Thank you. Next page. So what exactly is our vision? So we pride ourselves as being a house of creativity and content, delivering experiences and entertainment that can exceed expectations. Our mission is to leverage technology to be the premium platform of choice for our stakeholders, where ideas can spark and creativity can be accelerated, producing new realities and foster a sense of community across omni-channels. And what is our values, right? Basically creativity, respect, accountability, and integrity. Next slide, please. So this is our group structure. As I mentioned earlier, MM2 is our largest single shareholder, 37%. The founders collectively own 21%, and the public float is 42%. So left to right, we have 100% subsidiary-owned Chinese company in Shanghai. Singapore operates under Vividthree Productions. Malaysia as Vividthree Productions Sedahan Berhad. We have also a JV with VNN, it's called VNN, with the NTUC group of companies. And this is most recently just incorporated. It's called Beyond Digital Galaxy. This is to house all our e-commerce, social e-commerce, live streaming activities under this entity. Next. So key management, that's myself on the extreme left. The co-founders are Charles, Sky, and Jay, which are all listed there. Charles today serves as Chief Creative Officer, Jack as Chief Content Officer, Sky as COO, and Jay as Visual Effects Director. Of course, last but not least, is Pui, our Financial Controller. So this is basically a snapshot of what we have done and where we are headed, right? I myself, maybe I'll touch about it myself. So I've worked across different listed companies on ASX, on Nasdaq, on Mainboard Singapore as well, and typically been involved in fundraising, M&A, or deal structuring in the past. So how I came in the picture is also that I founded Gamma, the digital assets arm, that Vividthree is involved with, right? So that's why I came in the picture. Next slide, please. So these are some of our milestones, right? In summary, we have been involved in more than 50 feature films. We have won international awards, accounting for more than 50 awards. And the number is a 6-digit number, 100,000 VFX produced. Starting in 2006, when the company was incorporated, you would see that there are a lot of firsts in our roadmap, right? First 3D stereoscopic on the extreme left, from grain to gold. First 3D animated TV series pilot. First Hollywood VFX feature film. First Asia VFX feature film. Then started to be involved in the Our Boys to Men, which was the highest grossing in the Singapore space. And then MM2 acquired a stake of 51% in 2015. Then along the way, we involved in different projects, also into AR, VR. This was very early on, actually, in the global scene. This was in 2017. Then we secured the rights for Train to Busan. And this show launched our second business unit, which I'll talk about in more detail later, where we wrote this out to Xiamen, Beijing, KL. And we continue to look at more territories and more projects. So we were listed on SGX Catalyst on 25th of September 2018. Launch of the Train to Busan VR Tour was in 2019. We have a comic fit platform. This is like the Netflix of comics. You can download it on Play Store or Apple Store. SDC immersive experience. And these are basically a gist of what we have done, right? Then venture into digital assets, immersive AR, Malaysia, where we did the anamorphic Chinese New Year Bowl. Not sure if most of you have seen it, but this went quite viral. And we continue to look at new expansion, really into mergers and acquisitions in the year ahead. So we've actually announced our first MOU end of last year. I think more recently, we were announcing that we're going ahead with the first transaction. And going ahead, actually, we're going to have a lot of such corporate developments. So do keep a lookout for it. Next slide, please. So the past, the present, and future. Where have we been in the past? Where are we currently? And where are we headed into the future, right? So I myself am a strong proponent of digital assets. It's something very new, very nascent still, but I think it brings a lot of potential going into the future. So that's something that we keep abreast on and continue to do R&D for. Next. So I think enough of me presenting. We'll take a short hiatus here, where you can watch the show reel to give a better flavor of what we have done in the past year. So this video is actually seen on our website at www.vividthree.com. We revise this once a year. So this is the most recent 2022 showreel. I also take the opportunity for all of you to follow us on our social media website across Facebook, Instagram, and Vimeo for past works. Next slide, please. So our business units today, right, they are split across 4 units. So historically, we have always been involved in digital media. That's where the founders came together, and that's where the core expertise is. Then from there, extended that into creating shows like the Train to Busan VR show under the digital and live experience. And the comic vid app that I mentioned, it's an OTT platform. You can go there to take a look at some of the comics. It's free right now. There's no monetization model, but we are working on providing premium content and for it to be payment gateway. So the reason for us to enter into something like that is really multifold. Right? So if I may take the opportunity to explain. When we talk about comics, we talk about intellectual property that is originated from scratch. That's one. We could also partner with or acquire other assets, and then there could be cross-pollination of intellectual properties. From there, it opens up the possibilities where could we do a short-form content, long-form content, so series, animation, movies, merchandising, collectibles. So it opens that whole IP platform. Out of this, we're actually doing our animation project out of Malaysia, and also a movie, right? So we hope to extend that. And when we facilitate a platform like this, we do actually have partners from across the region. I mean, not just Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Korea, Japan, China, where they also have, they will share their content onto the platform. And from there, it opens how we can monetize that along the roadmap. The last one here, which is the most recent one, is the digital assets. So we've actually launched our own NFT project end of the previous year, sorry. And then we are actually doing what this thing called a mini metaverse, where we bring brands throughout a curated experience in the metaverse. So this is coming maybe second half of this year. So keep an eye on that. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this is the digital media where we service B2B and or B2C clients, right? So basically, if it's a TVC, if it's corporate client, post-production for movies, that's basically what we capture under digital media. Today is the largest contributor to our top line. Next slide. Digital and live experience. This is something that we have done before COVID, and this was in fact the even bigger contributor to our revenues until COVID hit. But what are some of these reasons? Number one, when COVID came, a lot of these out-of-home experiences were curtailed, right? And because all these tend to be more tactile, immersive, require people to put on headsets, for example, or go to a physical space where they experience something like that. So with the onset of COVID, all these were hurdled, right? But since now everything is coming back online, China has just announced the removal of masks very soon. We hope to rejuvenate and revitalize this as well. So we've got quite a few projects in pipeline. I can't really talk much about it now, but do keep an eye out on our updates when we actually announce them. Next slide. Digital media. So this is something that we've been recognized for doing very well. Starting with the left one, the golden bull. So the idea behind this, right, as you can see, it's largely we have done content for which are anamorphic, right? And for very big clients, for example, Netflix or Disney, across territories. So there's a recognition in the marketplace that we can deliver something like that to a very high quality. But beyond this, what have we done this year is actually to extend just beyond content into data capture. So how it works is this. Assuming that the screen is showing, let's say, the Marvel show, right? We would then enable your phone device, to scan a QR code on the very big screen. In doing so, you get to capture your profile, basically whether you're male, female, of course, subscribe to PDPA standards and all that. Once you have that, we allow you to choose a predetermined message or to type a message where we would filter. So people like that, when we did it first early this year with UOB Bank in Malaysia at Pavilion, there were 400 requests within the first hour of it being launched. Why? Because people like to see their name or faces on the very big screen. That's something that wows people, right? So beyond that, what do we have planned is the next step would be gamification, and the fourth step would be monetization. So how is gamification being done? So assuming we go back to the basics, you look at the content, we capture the user profile, you participate in a very simple game. This could be a hyper casual sub 10-second game where you avoid obstacles. Assuming you go past and you succeed, we will drop you a voucher. The voucher will then allow you to claim on the online store, depending on the brand that you work with or the partners that we have bought, and or the physical store. Why did we come up with something like this? Is because a lot of people are asking, what is the difference between marketing and advertising, right? Or branding and marketing. A lot of people are thinking, if I were to spend $10 on the advertising budget, the standard way is to say, okay, I spend this $10 across the number of screens that you have. It buys me X number of slots over this run period. That's it, full stop. So we're talking about reinforcement of brand. But how does that actually translate to monetization? We actually do not know. The most we can say is, there's a cost per conversion. But what is this conversion? There is no conversion, right? So taking influence from digital marketing, where we have cost of customer acquisition, we have cost per click for conversion, we are implementing that to digital out-of-home screens. Assuming this is just done at one screen, meaning to say, we can actually see from the back end, when we launch a certain campaign, how many interactions, how many conversions, right? In doing so, now imagine that we launch it across 100 screens or 1,000 screens. The footprint of, say, SPH, MBO, or JCDecaux, or Clear Channel. We could then say, okay, after half the period, use the remaining budget, cut the bottom half, and reinforce the top half for higher conversion. So we believe that this would change the way digital out-of-home campaigns are actually done. Next slide, please. So this is what I mentioned earlier, right? The digital and lifestyle experience. Beyond Train to Busan, we've also done the Bubble Tea Factory. This was launched in Singapore. And then we are working on new IPs as well. These are just some of the IPs that we discussed with other partners. So this is something that we continue to do, right? So if you look at just these 4 different IPs, it's always an IP targeted at a specific audience and or a specific territory, right? And where do we sit? Because you see, the theme parks is actually at a very extreme end. But beyond the theme park, which takes very long time to gestate, and the CAPEX and OPEX is very high, what we are trying to do is to piecemeal it, launch it in different territories, and ideally to work towards a carousel where we could say, assuming the 4 IPs here, and 4 territories, assuming at each location we run 2 to 3 months campaign. At the end of it, we basically will take that. So the more IPs we do, the more territories we can go to, the more venues that we can engage. This allows us to really right size and be very efficient in the IPs that we create and the go-to-market strategies that we will have for monetization. Next slide, please. Projection mapping is also something that we have done. Ion Sky experience, if any of you have, you take the lift, going to the top, so the one that done in the lift, and also the one that done at Ion Sky. Future of Us, we've done it at Singapore Discovery Centre, Singapore Science Centre. These are all some of the projects that we've done. Next. Consumer entertainment, I mentioned it before. Those are just some screenshots of how it's done. So it's done in a very Netflix model, but instead of movies, it's really animation, comics, webtoons, animation, right? I really hope that you guys can go and download it and take a look at what we've done there. Next slide. Digital assets that I mentioned. So digital assets, blockchain gaming, and how do we cross-pollinate the value throughout that whole value chain. Next. So this is how we look at digital assets in terms of specific to blockchain gaming, right? So 3 business pillars: technology, infrastructure, and blockchain gaming. Social e-commerce is something that's new that we hope to further extend this. Reason being is going back to where to what we have done with anamorphic design. Our wish is actually to serve brand owners in a multitude of ways. So we are talking about online engagement, offline engagement, content, technology, events as well, and also the creation of IPs. So when we do that, we basically can be the single party where the clients can come to us and say, hey, I'm going to launch this product and or this service in the roadmap. Where can we value add? We could come in and say, okay, let's do your content. That's something that we already do. We could make it immersive. We could make it, we could add a tech layer to it, right? We could add IP to it. We could add the different partners into the fray and extend these possibilities. So the acquisitions that we hope to make is actually to value add in this regard. So social e-commerce is something that's been booming. I mean, we've seen this in China. They're perhaps the forerunner in this. Netflix with live streaming has also picked up there. We are not aligned to any specific platform. I guess the capabilities are platform agnostic, right? So when we do that, we onboard a lot of different content creators. Our approach to social e-commerce is really to work with partners, not just in Singapore, but in the region. Because honestly, this is not something we have in-house. We think that it's better to work with partners on this. So we put down Singapore, Malaysia, and China. We are preparing for China, where we sign exclusive go-to-market for 2 brands right now, right? So that as that comes to fruition, we also make announcements along the way. But this is very important because it extends our DNA from just producing content into monetizing content in the dynamic and or static manners, right? And it provides a loop. Today, I do one product. For the same brand, I can do a different product and across different territories, working with the same partners. Next slide, please. So the approach for Vividthree is really an omni-channel 360-degree approach, right? And we hope to build capabilities organically and inorganically towards fulfilling this vision. Next. So these are some of our clients. You see that we work with very big brands and different type of clientele as well. Next. And these are just some of the awards that we've garnered and we continue to garner, right? And that's it. Welcome any of you to drop by our office as well. Thank you very much.
Great. Well, no, thanks very much, Jonathan. That was very interesting. It's a it's a very, very interesting world that you're working in. Obviously, one which has particularly high growth, I imagine, over the next few years. Just take a step back, just as a first question. What made you initially found the company? Where was the inspiration that brought you to found Vividthree in the first place?
So I'm actually the professional CEO of Vividthree. Vividthree was actually founded by 3 classmates and friends who are now also business partners, right? So namely Charles, Jay, and Sky. So I always get amazed by their story as well, right? And every time I hear it, it's like, oh, three classmates coming together, went to school together, graduating from school, and then starting in a very small office. I think Charles was always saying about, spending $4,000, if I remember correctly. Then from there, they start to do design for companies, simple like name card, website, and all that. And along the way, I think the founders have been very good, where they have pivoted and extended their capabilities suite. Because you see, with what they have done, there are many people in the world or even in Singapore who do it. But how many have actually managed to publicly list a company with these activities? There's only Vividthree. There isn't a second one in Singapore, actually. And along the way, since it started in 2006, it's been many, many years. They also pivoted along the way. As the environment grows, they also develop capabilities in that regard. And they continue to be very open and welcoming of new technologies and new way of looking at things. So yeah, I think I have a lot to learn from them as well myself.
No, it sounds very interesting. So effectively, the founders all had a kind of a nurtured and an industry background, which enabled them to build the company to what it is today. So obviously, it's a multifaceted company. Just out of interest, there's a lot of technical skill, industry skill required to produce the content you produce. Obviously, talent must be a thing which is a key differentiator, if you like.
Yeah.
How do you find the relevant talent to produce your content? Is that difficult?
I think the way we look at talent today, right, is that talent really is global, right? So where we are just in Singapore and Malaysia and China, I think that's also not stopped us from looking into, say, Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, or Vietnam, right? And we do this at different levels. Number one, I think we engage a lot with the local varsities, not just art schools, polytechnics. I happen to also be meeting SMUX this end of this week. So I think that's always a very good funnel of talent, right? Post-school coming out, and we hope to contribute in that way. In terms of talent acquisition, increasingly, right, people are saying, hey, post-COVID, I can work from home. I don't actually have to be in a physical office. But there are, of course, merits to being in the physical office. So when we look at talent, I think there's always a funnel and a filtration approach, where number one, we will work with them on a project basis, especially if they're overseas. And then if there's comfort working together, then maybe we could, and the business in that territory is sizable, then it is always my personal wish to say, hey, maybe it's time for us to look at a setup in that relevant country, right? And for this, we actually engage a lot with the government agencies in Singapore, including but not exhaustively. We talk to IMDA, Enterprise Singapore, DISG, the tripartite agency, and I think they've been very supportive in that regard as well. We actually apply for some grants to go overseas to set up new business units. So we've been supported there. So yeah, I think I extended a bit. Talent, global. We hope to get as much talent as we can under the umbrella. So that's organic. Then inorganic talent is also there, right? For something that we do not have internally. Like our first acquisitions that we mentioned, right? Elliot and Co. that we hope to finalize in the periods ahead, is we don't have that capability, but it would be good to have that capability. Then when we have that increased capability, how can we cross-pollinate? Because for any company that is profitable, revenue generating, and experiencing high growth, I think that is always also a very good partner and or acquisition target for us, right? Then they can cross-sell what we have, and we can also cross-sell what they have, and we grow together from there. I hope that
I
answers
guess
the
that
question.
brings me on to the next question. So just to get an idea for the audience of what you're actually producing in terms of the content. Because obviously you produce a lot of feature films. You're doing a lot of post-production. You're working with advertising agencies. How does the kind of the focus split between all those different areas?
I think the good thing about Vividthree, as we have proven in the past, is that we are doing post-production work at the highest tier in the supply chain, which is in movies and drama. So we have delivered at that level, right? Most people dare to do it at lower level. It's a different scale, right? And we have also done TVCs, and we have also done things like anamorphic content, right? And just specific to anamorphic, right? So when we did the Golden Bull in KL, that went really viral. Of course, then it also brought in, say, competitors, right, into the fray. So we constantly have to reinvent ourselves to look forward and say, hey, what's in the crystal ball? What can we bring into our suite of capabilities so that we can better deliver value for our clients? That is something that we look at. And typically, anamorphic design is L-shape, but we have also done it for 2D flat screen, right? And beyond just content, we are extending that to data collection, data monetization as well, right? So those are some of the ways that we look at how things should be done.
Right. And sort of, related to this, I mean, how does your kind of your major customer base, split up, between, corporates, obviously filmmakers, a major one, advertising? You've mentioned you have a joint venture with NTUC, which is very good in Singapore. So, there's a government connection there, I guess, for kind of public displays and so on. How does that sort of split? It'd be interesting to hear about.
The split changes not just month to month, but also year to year, right? So it really depends, because like right now, some of our previous clients have come back to us. For example, Mizuno. So we work with HQ for Mizuno and for their product launches and all that. We've also done content with partners, and so there isn't really like a fixed segment of who we do what, because you see, it's two moving parts. So one part is what's relevant in the market, and what is relevant yesterday may not be relevant tomorrow. So we constantly have to think about that. And when we think about that, it may not fit a previous customer, but it may allow us to engage a new customer, right? So the long and short of it, there isn't a fixed split. We hope to engage more on, say, the government tenders, GDs and all that. But personally, I see that as a supplementary or complementary business. I think for business to really grow, it needs to be beyond just the shores of Singapore. Not saying that Singapore is small, but I think the market there is also out there for us to convert. Right? When we talk about only specific to a population size, just comparing Singapore and say Malaysia, right? Foreign currency aside, FX aside, I think the budgets could actually be sizable for larger markets. It's just a factor of how it is. For example, today, if we do a firm in Singapore, I mean, any other content firm, right? Maybe we're talking about sub $10 million, sub $5 million budget. But $5 to $10 million budget could potentially just be the post-production budget for a China-made movie, for example. Then the question is, how can we be relevant extending what we already do to, say, China, which is a larger market? So that's something that we keep thinking about this as well, right? Whether or not we require hands, feet, minds on the ground in China, how do we do it? Do we partner with somebody? Do we acquire a company that is already doing this in China? So it's a multitude of factors that we have to consider.
Right. Yeah. Well, actually, I just noticed that there's a very much a related question that's come in from an anonymous attendee, saying, what is the split between local and global projects that Vividthree is working on, and do Singaporean projects provide any value?
The split between local and global projects, So normally, I mean, the technical answer to that is actually it really depends on where the budget comes from. Some budgets from our clients come from the regional HQ or HQ. Some are region specific, right? But if you look at the breadth of work that we have done, we've definitely done regional work. In fact, now we are working on projects also in Thailand. That's something new. We've received inquiries all the way to Americas, Mexico, US, Canada, Korea as well, right? But you see, while the interest is there and the faith is in Vividthree to deliver it, I think there's also a cultural language gap to bridge. For example, if we've talked about Koreans, right? We don't speak Korean, they speak much better Korean than us for sure, right? So how do we communicate? Because you see, creativity is not something where we say like math, like 1 + 1 = 2, and it's universally accepted. Creativity could be very subjective, could be very territorial, could be very cultural as well. So those are some of the hurdles or challenges that we have in converting interest into actual contracts. But I would like to reassure everyone that this is something that we are strongly working towards, being a regional player than just a Singapore, Malaysia player.
Very interesting. There's another question on here, which I'll just feed in, which is basically just on the competitive environment. Saying from an anonymous attendee, saying, is it possible to mention direct and indirect competitors locally, if any, and globally?
I think, right, there isn't really, say, direct or indirect. Let me explain why. If we just focus on our industry, our core industry as a start, there may be other companies that appear to do what we do, or whatever they do may be what we do, right? But I think everyone in the creative space is always thinking, how can they be more creative and yet commercially viable? That's the first two questions to answer, right? And in doing so, the fact that everybody is either operating, or we talk about new founders who are coming into the fray, everybody would be wanting to find their unique value proposition, right? So while we talk about it collectively as, oh, we do post-production, we do CGI, we do 2D, we do 3D compositing, color grading, and all that, those are skill sets. The key is how do we use those skill sets in new ways, right? So honestly, it's a very hard question to answer, because what the public may deem as competitors, actually, they may be working partners of ours. Yeah. And everybody just doing different parts of the whole thing. I think when we look at it, it's not about us competing against Singapore companies. I always tell the other companies, right? I mean, we should all work together and go global. Well, that is a very big statement to make. I personally strongly believe that. I mean, there's no point fighting in just the local market where we are fighting for $1. We should combine and then go out and do more, hit at the global level. Yeah. So the deemed competitors, direct or indirect, may actually be partners of tomorrow.
Right. So competition isn't really a major concern. I mean, I was going to ask, what is the sort of visibility on your business in terms of, how far do you look ahead when planning? So how visible are the revenues in the business? Are you doing projects which are a year long, or is it a month long, or how? When you're looking at it, what are the prospects look going forward? What is your forward-looking view?
Yeah, the funnel for our revenue funnel really, right, doesn't cross more than the next financial year. Let me explain why. Because it's actually client-driven. Yeah. We have been a service provider to all these brands. So the brands will actually work on an annual budget, right? Unless they have a forward budget where they say, oh, which we are working on, I think 2 of them, for Chinese New Year next year. Because apparently it's not apparently. The reality is it's going to be the Dragon year next year. So a lot of people think, oh, dragon, what can I do with the dragon? Is it content? Is it experience? Is it out of home? Is it physical? So we are starting to have these conversations now, right? But largely the revenue roadmap is on an annual basis. Mostly we work on a 3-month forward basis, 6-month if there's forward planning from the clients. But we hope to extend this, right? So in what way? As I mentioned earlier, when we build capabilities, organic or inorganic, we hope to have different capabilities as one single party. So all these brands, when they come to us, they say, hey, Vividthree can do online, offline, content, digital, can do all that. We just work with Vividthree. Then it's for us to go and work it out how we can deliver this, starting with our existing markets, territorial reach, but working at extending what we do overseas. So we hope to have we hope to honor the budget for our clients.
So do you do sort of your clients? I mean, do you have sort of major clients who will repeat every year with some form of a budget with you? Is it kind of a repeat business that comes through? I mean, what I'm trying to get at is, do you spend a lot of time looking for new business, or does the business actually naturally come to you from an existing quite large client base?
Yeah, we have clients that we've been asked for many years, right? But again, I think it's very important to also increase. I mean, number one is to increase and deepen the wallet share with existing clients. Number two is, of course, to find new clients that we're so onboarding new clients. So actually the mandate given to our account managers, BD/sales, is to every year find new clients. And we monitor this on weekly. I mean, we have weekly meetings on this, on this basis, right? So when we do that, then we have an increasing baseline while being supported by an increasing new customer line. Then this thing can grow, you see. And that's the way we look at not just a singular specific business unit, but across the business units that we look at. Even if you will do an acquisition, it's going to be the same thing. This year you do, say, $3 worth of revenue. Next year it has to be more than $3, right? Yeah.
Understood. I've got another question in here from an anonymous attendee. Just talking about your social e-commerce strategy. Do you plan on expanding your scope for influencer marketing, especially with the rise in social media, creative agencies, etc.?
Oh, that is something that we definitely are looking at. Oh, and maybe just to rewind a little bit, that's related to this question. Mention who are our competitors, right? So the post-production or content production business has largely been maybe disrupted in small ways by, say, your KOL agencies, right? So you have people fresh out of school, because today you don't need specialized equipment. I mean, anybody with a phone, laptop can do all this, can do the work actually at different level. But so content can be done in, say, 15 seconds. It could be, firm snippets put together, and let's not even get started on AI, right? Then after you do that, they put it up there for a song and a dance, right? I mean, it's not much, what? Less than $10,000. We are used to budgets, $250,000, $500,000 for TVC. But today, I mean, I won't mention the brands, but would you see the very big local brands spending that kind of money on TVC? So the mentality shift has also shifted. And it's very important for us also to be very relevant in that shift. If people are not doing TVCs, and if TVC is coming down, I mean, that's what we will say, or print is coming down, digital media is going up, then how can we be relevant in the digital side of things? Right.
Right.
Yeah. So for social influencer marketing, yeah, definitely something we look at.
Right.
This needs to be relevant. And related to this, are new possibilities. Number one, could there be talent management in a new way of looking at it? Could there be agency work as part of that? So when we do a TVC, then some of these content creators and become ambassadors, brand ambassadors.
Yeah,
that's what all these things we're looking at. And if you look at the global development space in this, I mean, today even sports artists, sportsmen, sportswomen are breaking in brand ambassadorship, branding, products, and all that. So for sure, this is going to be the future as well.
Right. I've got the Alpine climber, who's named himself Alpine climber, who's asked a question here. So obviously saying, new investment idea for the likes of me, and very interesting. Is it possible to show talk a high level finances on revenues, P&L, etc. The last few years? I mean, just to give a sort of what you can say, a breakdown of revenue, what's the most profitable business in your kind of portfolio of businesses would be very useful, I think, just by segment.
Sure. So you see, when we announced the first MOU for our first acquisition, a lot of people say, "Hey, is Vividthree buying numbers? Why are you guys buying a PR agency and all that?" And that's just one company, right? Assuming we have 10 companies the likes of that company, just accumulating that, I mean, the numbers just accrue on itself, right? But a lot of people then say, "Hey, would this then lose our DNA?" No, it's not a binary situation where we only do M&A and we don't organically improve our top line. No, but it is complementary. So to talk about this show and tell, yeah, for sure, I hope we can hit 20 to 50 million revenues in the next year. And people say, "Well, are you sure it can be done?" Of course it can be done. I mean, if I buy, for example, if the company acquires 10 million revenue generating company, is that not 30 million already? Right? And we typically only would buy profitable companies, that's serving as a base, and then we can build from it. But I'm also not closing the door on say, could we then buy loss-making companies, right? Of course we could. I mean, many companies go through different peaks and troughs. I mean, including Vividthree. Today on paper we are not profitable, but we are working towards profitability. But what people do not see on the outside, which I see on a day-to-day basis, is the amount of talent that we have in-house. So the key would then be, with the talent that we have in-house, with the track record that we have in the past, with the experience that we have garnered, how can we grow from this into the next level? This is what we focus on.
Right. Just go back to another question from the anonymous attendee, which is the last from him or her. So just to potentially, so since you mentioned that you were working together with some government bodies like the IMDA and ESG, etc., how does Vividthree navigate balancing creativity and sticking to the rules? I mean, that's an interesting one. But I think, I mean, my views, having lived in Singapore, that the government is very flexible and actually quite creative in its ideas. I mean, that's the impression I get.
Yeah, actually beyond just Vividthree. I mean, in my past professional history, I've also engaged with Enterprise Singapore and all that, right? I think by and large, the Singapore government agencies always want to support companies in Singapore, right? I think that is always the premise. The key, however, I think is for companies to show what products, what services, or what new ideas they have, and not just ideas, but how are they able to execute what they have in mind, right? So of course, it takes a lot of engagement and interaction with these agencies. I mean, we've had very good conversations with NAC as well, National Arts Council, and not just in Singapore, actually in Malaysia as well. So the wish is always, you see, what do government agencies want? What are their KPIs? For example, STB in Singapore, or the relevant tourism board in each of these countries. The typical KPI will be, how can I bring more people into my country or into a region, right? So for us, when we look at it, we have to start asking ourselves, what can we do today so that tomorrow it can facilitate the relevant tourism boards to achieve their KPIs? That's the way that we are thinking, right? With respect to Enterprise Singapore and IMDA, I think it's very important for us. You know, some people out there, I mean, definitely not my view, but some people will say, "Oh, what would the government know about media and content?" Right? But if we do not engage government agencies, then how can they help us? We need to let them know this is what we're capable of, this is what we are thinking, what do they think? It's an interaction, right? It's like us dating somebody. Oh, what do you want to have for dinner? I don't know. What do you want to have for dinner? So I think it's a communication, and not just one way, but both ways.
Right. We haven't really talked about your move into, obviously you production, you got digital media, etc. You haven't really talked about the digital asset side of things. Maybe a quick word on that, because that's obviously an area of, some people might have to say it's a bit of a concern, other people see it's very exciting. I mean, it's NFTs obviously is one area which would be a natural fit. How does that fit into your sort of long-term thinking? You've obviously mentioned gamification and gaming and blockchain do go together. So how does that work? We've only got about 5 minutes left. So
okay. You see, when we look at digital assets, right? What does the premise of digital assets present is the ability for identification and also the tokenization form, the tokenized form, right? So that being said, is to say what transactions are being done at a point in time, and how do we go back in the past to look at it. I'll make sure that everything is legitimized. Specific to gamification, when we talk about creative assets, it's always about, number one, providing value to the content creator or the digital asset creator. In the past, like I see you, Angus, in front of artwork, right? So that's a physical artwork. Then people talk about digital art, and also people talk about digitals. Could a physical art be backed by ownership in the tokenized form? So these are all conversations. Could I today walk into a movie theater and have a one-time use expiry NFT for access? That could also be done. Could I then clock all this and then bring in a CRM, customer loyalty program, into it? Could I then ask them to engage in specific activities, be it starting from the digital space and or the physical space, and then cross-pollinate them in the O2O manner, online to offline, offline to online? What do I say? What do I mean by this? Today, if I tell you, Angus, you can go into our gaming world, you spend time, you clock activities there, and then you earn points or voucher. This voucher then allows you to go to a physical store and claim the bubble tea, if that's your thing, bubble tea, right? Why not? Or if I go into a fruit juice store, I buy a fruit juice, and I could get a fruit juice digital copy in the gaming world as a part of a sticker book. So it really opens up a lot of new things. And as we have seen how advertising or go-to-market has changed over the decades, I think metaverse, quote unquote, advertising may perhaps be the next big thing. Right? How do people advertise in the metaverse world, in a world that we can engage and interact with our audience, and also importantly to receive this feedback from the audience? Oh yeah. Lost you for it.
Yeah, I'm just saying you put it very succinctly in that the connection between what you can purchase in the virtual world, and then you can use part of that to get something in the physical world. So that crossover is and tokenization is very interesting, and to be used in a kind of marketing sense, it will create lots of data, which is what everyone to be after. But I mean, it's very, very interesting to be in that area, and I think people will probably label it with one thing and don't really realize all the other use cases that there are out there. Just sorry, Jonathan, just to get your kind of views on the outlook for the coming year, and what do you see as the big opportunities? You've mentioned M&A potentially. What can you say on that? And then after that, we can hand back to Sanam.
M&A definitely. I mean, organic development, revival of our location-based entertainment pillar, and M&A that would definitely bring new capabilities and also facilitate cross-pollination of capabilities. So we would be able to provide more value year on year to our same clients and new clients.
Very interesting. So quite an exciting year ahead, I imagine. Going to keep you pretty
definitely
busy. Yeah. Well, Jonathan,
so
it's been
interested. Angus, sorry, the last again, I reiterate. If you forget everything, right, just remember our SGX sticker. Keep an eye out for us.
Very good. Well, no, well, thank you very much. It's been a fascinating conversation, and very, very, very good to have it with you. And I'm going to hand back to Sanam, and we'll see you soon, hopefully.
Thanks, Angus. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Angus, for some very interesting questions, and a big thanks to Jonathan for a detailed insight into Vividthree, the challenges in its sector, and opportunities for Vividthree. I would also like to thank our attendees who joined the session live and asked some very interesting questions. With that, I would like to wrap up this week's corporate webinar. Thanks again, everyone, and have a great week ahead. Thank you.